Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Albums Through the Decades, alongside Martin Popoff. We're looking at acdc today. Good morning, Martin. How are you?
Morning. I'm doing fine. I love talking ACDC, so this will be fun.
Yeah, so a band that's been around for a long time, and they've released albums in many, many decades. So we're going to take you from the 70s all the way through the present day. What we're going to do in this particular episode, since they only had one album in the 2010s and now one release in the 2020s, we're going to combine those two decades, pick our favorite of the two. But each of the others, we're going to go through all their album releases, and well, we've already done that, and give you our favorites. So I'll have Martin start off with his favorite album from the 70s.
Okay, so the 70s was a little tough for me because I've vacillated back and forth between a couple of my favorites of the 70s, but my heart tells me I got to stick with the choice I've had for most of my life, which is Power Age. It could have been a Highway to Hell as well. So it's really between those two for me. There's my Canadian red vinyl version there. See the no,
I can see that through the paper. Very cool.
Yeah. So in Canada, all of our first copies were red vinyl for some weird reason, right? But I love Power Age. I probably, if I had to really be scientific about it, I could probably pick the fact that 3 or 4 of my favorite songs by them of all time are on Highway to Hell, but just the general vibe of this one I like better. It's a little more down and dirty. But also at the same time, it's a little mellower than Highway to Hell. It's a little bluesier and softer and lighter, but I love it. We hated Rock and Roll Damnation when it came out, but I soon grew to love it. It was so poppy. It was kind of shocking after Let There Be Rock. But just love all the songs on this. They're pretty simple songs. There's not much to them except for perhaps Riff Raff. Sin City is a little more upscale and epic for them as well. But all this Gone Shooting, Up to My Neck and You, Kicked in the Teeth, they're all pretty punk rockin' tunes. They're not that heavy, but yeah, just the vibe of this I think wins over the vibe of Highway to Hell. But Highway to Hell is just more accomplished, I suppose. So there you go, Power Age.
Yeah, this was tough for me because I came down to Highway to Hell, Power Age, and Let There Be Rock. I liked Let There Be Rock quite a bit. And I went back and forth. I changed my mind like 3 different times. And I'm like, ugh. Ultimately, I went with the album that I think for me has the strongest track selection for the most part, top to bottom. And like you mentioned, it's their most accomplished one. I ultimately went with Highway to Hell. You asked me next week, I'd probably pick one of the other two. But there's just some of my favorite AC/DC songs are on here. Touch Too Much, title track, Girls Got Rhythm is terrific. Walk All Over You. Shot Down in Flames. Night Prowler. I love the album. It's great production. Pretty heavy for the most part. Fun album though. But I love the other two also. So it's not separated by much. So today I'm going to go with this. Might be one of the other two next week. Who knows?
Nice. Yeah. To me, it's really just between those two. I would have had other ones in front of even Let There Be Rock. For some reason, I don't play those first 3, with a complicated situation between the 3, because earlier on, it was actually quite a lot mellower and varied. Let There Be Rock was super heavy. That was when they decided, we really want to supercharge the guitars, and what a molten production they got on that record, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so for the 80s, it was no contest for me. Definitely, it's Flick of the Switch all day, every day. I just love how heavy this album is. There's your track listing there. It's heavy, it's raucous, it's raw, it's way more up tempo and way more lively than If You Want Blood. I love Back in Black, of course, as well. But this is just start to finish. This thing just rocks constantly. Flick of the Switch, Guns for Hire. It's Brain Shake. It's just relentless. It's a self-produced album. They weren't particularly happy with the production. It's not the greatest production. It is a little mid-rangey and a little distorted, but otherwise it's not distractingly bad in any way. But you can tell it is self-produced, and it's definitely not a Mutt Lange sound. But I actually prefer this production to the production of the previous one. And this record, maybe with a Back in Black production, even Back in Black though, is a little almost too behaved. You almost want a balance between Back in Black and this for the production. But to me, this is their Black Sabbath Born Again. The one that's a little maligned. It didn't do as well. I think it might just be single platinum, but no contest at all for me for the 80s. Flick of the switch.
I will say I enjoy that album way more than For Those About to Rock any day.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I went with Back in Black.
Okay.
I mean, for me, it's like, and I agree with you. That is a very underrated album, and I considered it, but when I came right down to it, it's hard to pass this album up. Even though it's got the one song that I never, ever, ever, ever need to hear again, that I am more sick of than I think any other song, which is, of course, You Shook Me All Night Long. But man, Hell's Bells, Shoot the Thrill, title track, Have a Drink on Me. That's just great stuff. And it's a huge sounding album. And to me, that was kind of like the no-brainer.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the 90s. To me, this was a no-brainer as well, but we only got 2 albums to pick from. Yep. The big comeback album, Razor's Edge. So, after not a very good creative album in Fly on the Wall to a terrible creative album in Blow Up Your Video, and it even sounds terrible, and it didn't even sell very well. It's got a stupid title. Everything about that album is just annoying. They came back, and this thing went, I believe it's 5 times platinum.
Yeah,
it was a huge record. It's just got a lot of attitude. It's got a little bit of just a slight detection of kind of like a hair metal efficiency to it with that sort of tight Chris Slade drum sound. It's a very stiff album. But it's got a lot of great songs on it, anthemic songs like Thunderstruck, Fire Your Guns is just really kick-ass. Money Talks a little more melodic. Razor's Edge is moody and dark. Are You Ready has turned out over the years to be a little bit of an anthem. So yeah, just some really good, good, heavy, kind of snarling, we're back sort of things off of this. It always annoyed me that it doesn't have an apostrophe in the Razor's Edge, but what can you do? So yeah, there you go. I think it's just a better album than Stiff Upper Lip, from this Ball Breaker from this era. So yeah, we didn't have a lot to choose from, but there you go.
Yeah, it's an easy choice. It's mine as well. Very strong album, and good production on it. Bruce Fairbairn. I mean, I think it works. A lot of good anthems on here, like you mentioned. So many memorable tracks, and it just kind of basically cemented that AC/DC were back doing what they do best. And even though stylistically it's not much different than anything else they've done, but I just think the songs are really, really memorable on this album. And a handful of them made it to the stage, and some of them have stayed on the repertoire, their live repertoire. So yeah, great album. Much more solid top to bottom than the other album from this decade.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so moving into the 2000s, I've always been a big fan of Black Ice. This is one of those albums that gets debated for being too long all the time. It's got 15 tracks on it, but I think it's pretty strong throughout. It's heavy. It's up against Stiff Upper Lip, right? And I just think they did a good job with this. I was happy when it came out, and my enthusiasm to begin with didn't fade. It's hard to read the things on here, but yeah, Rock and Roll Train, I remember being the first single, the advanced single, and I thought that was a good kind of Stonesy, charming sort of thing off of it. But there's a lot of heavy songs as well, and yeah, it's just fun always debating is the album too long or whatever, because this is for them to put 15 tracks on that's pretty incredible. So yeah, Black Ice.
Yeah, it's long for them because I think most, especially like the last couple we've gotten, right? It's like, barely half hour, 30, 40 minutes. But yeah, Black Ice is my choice as well.
Yeah.
Different kind of production on this album. The guitars sound have a little bit of different, the songs are heavy, but the guitars have like a cleaner tone, which I think is interesting. And it works pretty well. A lot of tracks, a lot of good stuff to choose from, but a lot of really good riffs, memorable choruses. War Machine is great. And, Rock and Roll Train, Decibel, some really good stuff on here. And I remember when this came out, people, again, it had been a while. And if I remember correctly, Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles, this was the #1 album voted by the staff for that year when it came out. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Good album.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the clean guitar tones. I have a lot of buddies who have kind of complained that they really have lost their ability to enjoy AC/DC because of how really well behaved and polite the productions are of all the later albums, starting with Ball Breaker and Stiff Upper Lip, I think. And so that's why Razor's Edge is the last one that's got sort of some snarl to it. But Black Ice, of all of the ones after Razor's Edge, I think Black Ice kind of has a little bit more heaviness in the guitars than most of the other albums. Maybe wrong on that, but Stiff Upper Lip and Ball Breaker are pretty mellow albums in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They remind me of when Status Quo went poppy, and even when Foghat went poppy. That sort of thing. It just seems like the pop version of AC/DC on those two albums. Yeah. So all right. So my last choice is Power Up. I had to there we go. I had to review this for Banger TV, and my enthusiasm at that point probably was even higher. Unfortunately, a little higher than it probably is now. I don't like it as much as I did to begin with. But I love it way more than Rock or Bust. I was so disappointed with Rock or Bust for some weird reason. I just could not find, more than about 2.5 songs on that record that I liked. And it really bummed me out because I wanted to love it because I loved Black Ice. And they are one of my favorite bands of all time, possibly even my favorite band of all time. But I thought Power Up was a nice return to form with the good songwriting, lots of guitars, and just pretty up tempo and pretty novel ways to come up with new riffs, but nothing that had that sort of brown out kind of gray sound that Rock or Bust had. And Rock or Bust, what a stupid title for an album. And Power Up isn't that much better because it's all complicated, right? With the ways you can say it and spell it and all that sort of thing. It's so annoying when bands do that, right? But no, I think it was definitely, this time it was a no brainer because my rating on Rock or Bust has got to be like a 3 out of 10. It's by far it's actually my least favorite AC/DC album of every album they ever did.
Yeah, I remember when Rock or Bust first came out, I was pretty into it. And I was like, I guess it was just good to have a new AC/DC album. But like over time, I'm like kind of like, yeah, it's not really a great album by any means. I just don't listen to it anymore. And my choice was also Power Up. And this is a good album, a lot of fun. And quite frankly, this came out at a time where I think the world needed a new AC/DC album, right? Kind of the pandemic album, so to speak, right? But yeah, a lot of really good songs on here. Strong stuff, memorable, pretty heavy in spots. I think it's definitely the most rockin' AC/DC album we've heard in a while. But yeah, Rejection is awesome. Shot in the Dark, real catchy, great chorus. Realize is awesome. Witch's Spell, Demon Fire, No Man's Land. Good stuff. There's still a lot of fire left in the tank, apparently.
Yep. Absolutely.
We'll see where they go from here, right? I don't know. I thought Brian sounds fantastic on this album.
Yeah, well, now we're back to the whole debate. It's a kind of a Dan McCafferty situation, right? It's like, can Brian actually? I mean, is there even any debate? Within the camp, like, is he going to be able to do this live? Does he even want to? Was it just on? I thought they did what they should have done, which is, even if he can't sing anymore and he's got whatever problems, if it's lung problems or whatever, hearing problems, right? I think, always it seemed like the technology exists to at least get an album out of them and even another album. And I don't care if we never see them live anymore with Brian. Well, I don't want to see them with anybody else singing either, but that really doesn't matter to me. I think they did the right thing and went and made an album with them. I thought that was just a great present to the world.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Will there be another one? I don't know. But I have this feeling that we just might see another one because I know Angus doesn't want to hang it up. Angus is like, hey, it's going to keep going. Angus will be 80 and still be doing this, wearing the same shorts and all that kind of stuff. It's like, but yeah, I don't know. Good album. If they got another one like it ready to go at some point, I'll probably buy it. I'll listen to it. Why not? Yeah. So there you have it, everybody. AC/DC favorite albums through the decades. In the comments below, list your favorite album from each decade that they released an album, and visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. We'll have more of these coming up throughout the month of May. We've got another, week and a half left or thereabouts, just over a week. So stay tuned for more. A lot of the usual suspects we haven't tackled yet. So more coming. So stay tuned for that. Martin, you want to plug your website and whatever you got going on over there? Any new books?
Yeah, the books are all at martinpopoff.com. But one thing I do have coming up this weekend, I have to do the 100th episode of my podcast, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. And everybody wants me to do a question and answers thing. So at the Facebook, they've sent in all these questions, and I'm just going to kind of go through them. I'm still going to pick the usual, I do 5 song clips at 30 seconds a piece, but I have a feeling those are all going to be from my top 5 favorite albums of all time, because it seems like that's the main question everybody's asking in the Facebook thing is that you got to answer that one. What are your top 5 favorite albums of all time? So those will be my clips.
Yeah, it's always an interesting question, right? I've done episodes like that before too, but sometimes over time, it's like, well, now I think I like this one a little bit better, and the movers and shakers, I call them, right?
Yeah.
The wonders of being a fan, and you like so much music and so many bands. It's like, depending on your mood, your state of mind, it's like all of a sudden, well, maybe I think I like this album a little bit better. And what used to be number 5 now is number 8. What used to be number 11 is moved into the top 3. Whatever.
Exactly.
So. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. For Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. See you real soon. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.